So I started playing Vanguard in, what was it, November 2011, and so that's what, getting close to 9 years now. And then I also started uploading under the name DifferentFight in, I think, September of 2013, so 7 years ago. And I started like regularly uploading, on like at least like a 2 times per week basis ever since 2014. And so that's what, 6 years ago that I've had this like disciplined routine, let's say. And of course, over all those years, there's no way that I haven't burnt out of the game or, felt burnout at least once or twice throughout my time playing Vanguard. So today's video, I wanted to spend some time to talk about burnout. It's a feeling that I'm sure is shared by a lot of people, whether it comes from just playing the game or from doing other things with the game or just from people talking about the game or like an emotion associated with the game. Burnout can happen in many different forms, and it's sometimes pretty hard to notice it even, and especially it's sometimes difficult to know how to deal with it. Like, what do you actually do to not feel it, or how do you notice it? Because what is burnout in the first place? Burnout to me, let's say like on a simple definition basis, is just the feeling of when you've had enough, like you just cannot take it anymore, you're sick of playing it, you felt a few times leading up to it that, you're already kind of like losing your kind of like passion for it or just like not in the mood for it, but then it all kind of hits you at one point, you're like, I just can't do this anymore, that kind of feeling. So that's what burnout is, and burnout can take many different shapes and forms. There's one thing when you're burnt out from just like playing, you play every single day and then you start having like an unlucky streak or something, or let's say like the meta isn't that great, and for example there's one deck that just like you just feel abused by at a certain point and you're just, I can't do this anymore, this is just like, I just feel terrible after all these games, it's just like a not a good format and I just can't take it, that's that kind of thing as well. But also just like from doing something over and over again for such a long time, it also can just come naturally. You just feel a bit exhausted, and then that exhaustion can pile up over time until it hits a breaking point. So for me, burnout, as a player, I only started doing YouTube seriously in 2014. So from 2011 to 2014, I was basically a competitive player. And back when I was in high school, so I played Vanguard from like starting from the last few years of my high school days. And I basically had this tradition with my friends at locals that every day after school, we would go to locals. Basically, finish school at 4:30, go to locals until it closes at like 6:30, go get dinner, go home, or just go home straight. And that was my routine. Just every single day, basically, as long as my friends were there, was to go to locals. And we really tried to make time always, every single working day. And then weekends, we would have a tournament. And, as a high schooler, you tend to have that kind of time. So I had that routine, and I didn't really burn out because Vanguard to me was like everything. That's all I could ever dream of and all I ever could think about, and I didn't really have any other things to focus on. I had games I could play at home, but, the time with the boys was very precious, and when I think back at it, it was very, very precious. But the thing is that, of course, even that can get quite exhausting because, for example, you have this obligation not just to your friends but to yourself as well. You're like, well, they are making time for me, so I have to make time for them too. So let's say one day, you've been going for like 3 months in a row every single day, and then one day you're like, I'm not really feeling it today, I'm just like, we're just gonna play with the same decks, the same games, the meta hasn't changed in the last month or something, and you just start thinking to yourself and you're like, I'm not really feeling it today. But then that first time you feel it, maybe you're like, but my friends are waiting for me, I gotta, I should still show up. It'll be fun because my friends are there, or something like that. So you start making excuses, and you just keep pushing it. And then you push until one day you're like, I just can't take this, and then you start flaking on your friends, you don't show up anymore, and that has all kinds of effects. For me as a YouTuber, for example, so like as a player, I never really experienced that. There would be times where like we're collectively not feeling it, like a meta is bad and just everyone's just like, let's just meet up once a week, or let's just meet up on the weekend, it's fine, just peace out, or whatever. Or like somebody has something planned, so everyone's like, oh, you're not coming, okay, then we'll just do it some other day, that kind of thing. But then for me, like as a content creator, I have all these like 6 years that I've seriously done it, and like the 7 years that I've done on YouTube, I've always had this like schedule of upload at least, for the first few years, upload at least twice a week. Now it's been at least 3 times a week, but ever since Zero's release, I have to, like, I get so many video ideas that I can't help but do daily, basically. And then I also now have the obligation to kind of stream 3 times a week. So for me as a content creator, I noticed burnout simply based on my motivation to make videos or my motivation to stream Vanguard specifically. So burnout doesn't have to be just in the TCG, it can be with Zero too. And so I mostly felt it recently when I basically, I stream 3 times a week, and I was just like, I woke up and I knew I had to stream that day, and I was just like, I do not want to play Zero today. I just don't want to play Zero today at all. Or like outside of dailies. I don't want to play ranked Zero. I don't want to deal with, you know, people talking about how I play Zero or how I'm like not like as emotionally invested into the game as usual and things like that. So I just played something else, and that's usually, I'll get to dealing with burning out soon. But, you know, that's also that kind of feeling of like, feeling like you are, because you're committed, because you have a routine, it's easy to notice. So that's kind of my tip, is like, you have to notice when you're starting to feel that frustration, that feeling of burning out. Because an important thing is that just because you're feeling bad about playing the game doesn't mean you hate it. Just because you're not feeling it doesn't mean you hate it. You can still love the game very much, even without playing it for like a month, you know? Because you still probably will talk to your friends about it, you look at the new card reveals, you kind of like keep up with the news, but just because you don't play it, especially for the people that don't have locals, you know, they enjoy the game, they love the franchise, they talk to people about it, they don't have anyone to play with, but they still love it, you know? So you shouldn't have that, because a lot of people feel guilt, you know, they feel guilt, they're like, I'm not enjoying the game, that means I don't like it. It's like, no, doesn't mean anything like that, it just means you're tired, and that's normal. You get tired of everything, you know, and you gotta take a break. So, now that you're kind of adjusting to noticing when you're starting to feel burnt out, what do you actually do at that point? So for me, the first thing I do is step away from the game. Like, just step away from physically playing the game. So for me, like in my current sort of like schedule, I only get to play Vanguard locals, like, or like just Vanguard in general, like the TCG once a week, more or less, simply because like we usually only meet on weekends and every other week with my local friends, and then I'll spend like maybe like the other weekend that I don't meet with local friends, somewhere in that week I will just play on like CFA or tabletop or remote fight or something like that. So, you know, that way I'm not like playing the TCG very often, so I rarely burn out of the TCG itself. But with Zero, which I am playing every day because of the way that it works, it's very easy to play every day. It's very easy to just play a bunch of games in a row. You know, it's very much more where I feel it, where I'm just like, oh, I really don't want to play this season. You know, I just not want to do it, but I got to make videos and like stuff like that. But the number one thing I do is I just don't. Like for Zero, I just log in, do my dailies real quick, play that one ranked game, sometimes don't even play it, and just leave it at that. You know, there's no point to like push it beyond that. And then with the TCG as well, it's like, if the meta is really bad, I'll make content about it. It's very, as a content creator, you're in a really favorable position because you can make content about the game without playing it. You can talk about the meta and be like, this thing topped this weekend, let's talk about it. You know, look at this meta pie chart, let's talk about it. I can tell you already, throughout the years that I've done Vanguard YouTube, there have been many periods where like I will not play the game for a month, but I'll still upload 2 or 3 times a week, easily, simply because I don't need to necessarily play it, you know, so that's like specifically my thing. But even to the people that just play the game, it's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to always show up to locals, you don't have to like feel that you're indebted to your local community. You can still talk to them, but just be like, hi guys, I need to take a little break, I'm not really feeling the game, I'll see you guys in like a month, we'll jam some games, you know, don't go anywhere, and it'll be cool. And a lot of people will understand. They're like, okay, no worries, it's all good, man, you know, and that's it. And then you just get back a month later, and there you go, you're back at it again. So it's important to take that break. It's important to first step away, just step away, you know. And there's also the idea that like what I sometimes do is like watching some stuff about the franchise that I like is really kind of brings back that excitement. And the lucky thing about card games is that because they update so frequently, it's, even if you take a break, something will grab you. You know, every time, it's like, even though my favorite clan, DP, only updates once a year, there's plenty of other decks I like. So, and like, there's plenty of things that even if I don't play a deck, I'm still excited about the prospect of something. So for example, like when the Try 3 trial decks were announced, I was like, I'm probably not going to play any of these decks, but this is really exciting. And that was enough to like bring me full spirits back into Vanguard, for example, if I would have been on a Burnout that time. I want to just like really drill the idea that it's fine to take a break, because not only will you naturally want to play again, the game will also just kind of grab you back with the new announcements. And even if, for example, we go to Overdress and there's like, you know, it's all new stuff, you probably will see something that looks cool eventually from your other Vanguard friends, or they will just tell you, yo, you should check this thing out, or like your favorite clan is getting support, like check this out, and then you're probably gonna get grabbed back anyway. Like, that's just how these kind of things work. It really is. Now, the other thing that I like doing personally when I feel burnt out is play something else. It doesn't have to be a card game. You can play a different video game. You know, you can go spend some time playing League, spend some time playing a fighting game, Apex, whatever you like, whatever you do with your time apart from card games. Basically, just go do that, or if anything, try a new game. Like, just try something new in general. Maybe try, like, you know, sometimes it doesn't have to be a game. You can just go, like, start running or something, go to the gym more often, maybe do something else, like make music, make videos, whatever it is that you enjoy. Just like do one of your other hobbies. Now for me, what I usually do, and as you guys probably saw on stream, is play other card games. Now the main reason why I do this is because there's a lot to learn from other card games. And the very interesting thing for me with especially, like, for example, Pokemon TCG is that I basically learned from, like, you know, the way that in Pokemon there's not that much RNG, I would say, and there's a lot of losses are because your opponent punished you for a misplay, or like you didn't think ahead enough, therefore you lost because you couldn't kind of like make a situation where your opponent would be disadvantaged, for example. So, and it's interesting because, you know, I play a lot of different card games when I feel burnt out, and then I get that knowledge from that card game injected back into Vanguard. Card games kind of cross-pollinate in that way, where even if the mechanics are quite different, there are certain fundamentals that are different from card game to card game that you can kind of reapply into Vanguard. And so, you know, for example, when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! More seriously a couple years back, during like the first year of the Link format, I kind of learned about a lot of like resource management and like responding to plays and like thinking about what my opponent could do and trying to counter that. And that helped me to think, you know, okay, in Vanguard, how can I apply that? It was like, oh yeah, you know, damage denial, thinking what kind of like, how much counterblast my opponent needs for their plays, things like that. Then with Pokemon, I kind of learned again. So it's like, okay, so this game is more about like, you know, setting up my own field so that my opponent cannot really like take advantage of it and win the game, or like catch me when I'm not expecting it, for example. And so I was like, okay, how can I do that in Vanguard too? So you keep going to, for me, I keep going to other card games. And also another thing is, as a content creator, I also then watch the YouTubers of those card games, and then I see what kind of like content creation style they have, what they talk about in their videos, and very often, especially from like Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTubers, I've been very inspired by why they talk about it. I was like, this could be covered in Vanguard too. So if you're a content creator, this is something you should take note of. You can sometimes just look at what other content creators are doing from other games that is not explored in your game. So it doesn't have to be Vanguard, but in my case, it is Vanguard. So this is something that I often do. And so I want to like also like spread this idea that like it's fine to play another card game and learn something from it, because there's actually a lot to learn. And so I just mentioned some examples with like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, but I play other, you know, games as well, like Shadowverse, you know, and like the new Digimon TCG looks pretty interesting too, and like Buddy Fight. And there's just a lot that you can apply to your own game from other games. And so it's completely fine to just like explore another game, even if it's like for a longer period of time. And then when you're going back to your main game, Vanguard, you're just like, okay, I learned a lot from that game. Let's see what I can reapply here. So that was the kind of stuff I wanted to cover, really. So what you will want to do to deal with burnout is completely different, you know, differs from person to person, but I hope that gave you some ideas. And most importantly, I want you guys to think actively of like, if you're not feeling that great about it, it's completely fine to just peace out for a second, especially because it doesn't have to come from the game itself. Like sometimes like it's just the negativity in the community. Once I burnt out because I just saw too many people just being negative about things on Facebook, like not necessarily like myself, but they would complain every time I opened Facebook. It was a complaint. It was just complaints, and maybe it's just a personal thing, but when I see too much negative energy in one go, I just feel bad. Like I just genuinely, it like starts my day off wrong. And I don't know if other people share this, but for me it's a very big thing. And so I just like kind of learned to not associate with those people anymore, because it's honestly a bad thing. But that's again more of a personal thing. But I'm just saying that can also be a thing that leads to burnout, is not just the fact that, you know, you're not happy or satisfied with the game, or you're tired of the game, but the community can also make it worse. And it's important to like know where to draw your boundaries for your own social circles and not to like get kind of possessed by the negative mindset that others might be spreading. So that was a bit of a tangent, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, make sure you check out my second channel. I've started uploading there a bit more frequently, trying to kind of revive it a little bit. So do check out, I did a little taste test video if you're into food. I guess everyone is, but if you're into Japanese food, you can give that a look. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.